Welcome to this first episode of Techzine Perspective, in which we look at a current event where one of us is attending, and we will give our perspective on what's going on in the world of. And the world of KubeCon is kind of what this episode is about, right, Sander? You're at KubeCon.
Yes, I am. I'm here in London. It's actually very nice weather. It's a nice change. Usually when you're in London, it always rains, but now it's actually nice and sunny. So that's a good start.
Okay, but I don't think people are going to watch us for the weather. So
You always start with a little bit of comment on the weather, right? It's very important.
Yeah. But you're at KubeCon. Many vendors are at their expo, I believe, showing their latest innovation for Kubernetes. Right? That's what KubeCon is about. Kubernetes Con.
Well,
it's also a bit of more cloud native con, right?
Yeah, it's the full name is KubeCon Cloud Native Con, right? So, yeah.
So how much is still Kubernetes and how much is cloud native? Is it?
Oh, I mean, Kubernetes itself has been maturing quite well over the years. There's not a lot of talk about the foundational technology anymore. But for example, last year it was a lot about platform engineering, so making sure that your developers can work on the in the ecosystem in a way that's efficient, secure, and preferably also fast. This year, actually, most of the talk hasn't been necessarily about containers or Kubernetes or anything that you might expect. Most of it has been about VMs, which is quite interesting.
About VMs, so we're going back in technology.
No, I mean, the reason that they're always, basically everybody's talking about VMs here is obviously the entire Broadcom VMware thing, which also resonates here quite heavily.
Okay.
Especially with VM replacements, a lot of companies expect a lot of VM replacements, not necessarily maybe already now, but in the foreseeable future. And you need to be able to be to manage that, and you need to be ready for that. So there's a lot of talk about so VM replacement, but also about coexistence of containers and VMs in a single management plane. But that's also a very important thing.
But you can't move every VM to a container, right? That's
no. Well, without refactoring, no. But I mean, you can if you want to. It is a very big fundamental change for a company to say, look, we're going to stop using VMs and we're going to start using containers now.
It's impossible, but
extremely expensive, and VMware is an extremely sticky platform. I mean, I think we will even if VMware stopped existing today, we would still see VMs and VMware stuff in data centers and in private clouds.
2040 or something.
In 2040, 2050, it's extremely sticky. So it's also part of the success probably of VMware, but it is quite hard now to move.
Situation maybe even because if you're based on the technology you really need it and you really invested, it's hard to get out. But we do see a lot of alternatives popping up. But are the vendors that are attending at KubeCon and Cloud Native Con, are they focusing on moving those VMs to containers, or are they landing VMs on Kubernetes? Because that's also possible now with KubeVirt, I believe.
It's both. I mean, there's a lot of realism as well, right? So nobody's going to do this today, moving everything. So I had a chat with a company called Platform 9, who actually do a one-on-one. So basically a one-on-one clone of VMware, but in their own environment. Okay. And but you can pick it up, drop it in the Platform 9 environment, and it's supposed to work. Everything should work as it used to work, basically.
But they've cloned the VMware software, or
no. They've done. I think they've contributed and they've set up one open source project called vJailbreak. So it does what it says on the tin, right? It's they can emulate basically the VMware environment so that everything works exactly the same as it does in the old VMware. But even a company like that, I had a chat with the founder yesterday. She said even they don't get a lot of companies saying, look, we're going to start this today. a lot of companies are still biting the bullet and say, look, we're going to renew for another 2-3 years with Broadcom, and then afterwards we're going to move away. So they actually have I mean, that's what she told me. They actually have quite a number of customers who signed with VMware, but they've also already signed with them for over a couple of years.
But is that a serious solution? Because with a name like vJailbreak, you said it sounds a bit like not an enterprise
I mean, it's
grade
been around
stuff,
for 10 years already.
Oh, okay.
And they have quite a number of customers, and it's not a huge company. Only I think 130 people work there. So that's obviously that is cause for concern. If it's been that
you really
good.
emulate a complete VMware stack then?
Well, I mean, emulating may not be the right word, but I mean,
or clone or
but they
copy.
I mean, the customers they have, they stick to them, so they're happy, and they have customers from small to very large. So I mean, I do think I don't think I think it as a company I would think twice about doing something like this, because you're basically switching from one lock-in to another lock-in.
Yeah, other alternatives that are more serious. We got a lot of HPE VME in the last couple of months with a huge interest, even on our site. We got a lot of readers on that.
Yeah, but that's only. But that, if you're looking for a vSphere replacement, that's sort of a different conversation, right?
Yeah, I know, but I saw Pure Storage did kind of the same, but they use a Kubernetes layer to land VMs on KubeVirt.
Yeah, because and I think that's one of the overlooked things when you talk about a VMware environment. You're not only talking about the traditional VMware pieces. You're also looking at the integrated part with your existing storage, and maybe you have Pure Storage, you have NetApp or whatever, and that's also very hard to recreate in a second environment, right? So that's what apparently what she said. That's what Platform 9 does. Even though I don't think it's the way forward for all companies. It can help. I think some companies that want to move away from VMware but still want to stick with VM. But at the end of the day, I think every company should have a strategy towards more cloud native, more modern kind of workloads. But
to be honest, if I'm thinking about what you just said and processing it a bit, but to me it sounds like it's better to move to a more mature enterprise grade stuff. And if you have some specific legacy application that really needs a VMware environment, and that vJailbreak company thing can do that, then it might be an interesting option, but only for a very small piece of your infrastructure, because you want to land on some enterprise grade, good supported platform in the end. And to me, a Pure Storage or an HPE or a Nutanix or all sound a bit better.
Nutanix as well. They do lots of with their Nutanix Kubernetes platform. They integrate with all sorts of landing zones and with all sorts of types of workloads as well.
Yeah, and I read in the Pure Storage that they work with Red Hat and SUSE and many others to support their platform. That also gives a bit more confidence that the platform will be around for years and will be supported.
Well, I think from a conceptual standpoint, I think it's very important now to, we had the first wave of DevOps where everybody was doing development from the bottom up, right? So they set up some stuff and then they built it up and built it out gradually to more and more serious, to more serious nature. But now we actually, so the wave 2 needs to look at that from a platform level, and that's what you see, that everybody is talking about this. The example you gave, Portworx or Pure Storage does it. Nutanix is doing it. I mean, everybody is talking about how to actually integrate everything that you have into one single management layer. That's, I think, a lot of that development has been triggered by what happened around VMs. And I think that was coming back to my earlier point. I think that's the most striking thing of this week, that we're actually talking about VMs so much. So it's quite striking, I think.
Okay. Any other interesting things that popped up during this week?
Oh, I think I attended a chat from the head of the Linux Foundation,
Okay.
Jim Zemlin, I lost his name for a second there. He had some interesting things to say also about the current state of affairs in the world and how open source can help navigate that state of affairs with the nationalisms coming up. And I mean, open source by nature can help combat that to a certain extent. And he was also very and he also mentioned some things about the open source and China. China is really far along at the moment in open source. They're not necessarily they've created their own ecosystem inside China, so they're competing with each other, trying to recreate what the U.S. companies are doing inside the U.S. Trying to compete with each other. That's what China is doing at the moment.
Pushing each
I
other
think that
forward.
I think that was quite an interesting point he made. I think because we still tend to think that they copy everything that's being done somewhere else. But according to him, that's definitely not the case when it comes to open source.
I wrote an article this morning that the EU is now combining all open source assets and solutions from many European countries into one database, one platform where everybody can access it.
Mm-hmm.
It started with 5 countries or something. The Netherlands was included, and
Mm-hmm.
France, Germany, and a couple more. But the intention is that everybody joins in and that it becomes a public sector database for open source, as it may. So
Yeah, well,
there is a small step in the right direction, I guess, from the EU part of this.
I think we need to do something like that as well in our region. So sort of try to enable companies and startups and developers more to become more powerful in the open source, because when it comes to Linux Foundation, the number of contributors and the members is equally divided in 3 regions, right? So North America, Europe, and China more or less have the same number of members and contributors, and so there's nothing stopping us in Europe to also do maybe do more of an integrated effort to stand up to what's happening outside of our region.
Yeah, but we really look at the US for things, and
Well, we may not do that much anymore, right?
no,
With what's
the
happening
political
there.
climate is a bit changing at the moment. But I don't know if Europe as a big enough technology community space aligned to come up with an initiative like this, because it's all entangled with each other. It's not like an independent thing. We have to create it, and we need to, yeah. It also requires a different mindset. I don't know if the mindset in Europe is like, oh, we need to keep it in Europe, like in the US is now, oh, we need to do
Well, there
America
was this
first thing.
the NeoNephos project foundation that was added to the Linux Foundation that actually specifically focused on creating a European ecosystem. Also, partly so that partly has to do with also with EcoFed, something that I wrote a piece on recently, initiated by a couple of Dutch companies to try and create a federative layer that enables you to actually, based on open source, obviously, enables you to move freely between different private clouds or regional clouds or whatever kind of cloud you want to call it. I think that has potential and legs. I think if we keep enough focus on it, because the big hyperscalers are not sitting still either, right? So they are actively rolling out their sovereign clouds, and I mean,
Yeah,
there is
but
nothing.
we first need a mind shift, because we're too much focused on the global thing. We don't focus on Europe. We tend to think bigger and on a global scale. We don't usually see those borderlines that are being created now. And I don't know if Europe is already ready to they're now talking about getting a deal so the borders go down again instead of up. So
Yeah.
we're trying to find a
Well,
solution
yeah.
instead of doing the same.
I think diplomacy is not the worst thing to do at the moment. I mean, you don't want to start a full-on trade war immediately. I don't think that's the. But I do think it is good for Europe to keep their options open and to look at other options.
Definitely.
Even if that includes maybe in an open source world, maybe more contact with China or with the Eastern or whatever.
Yeah, the Middle East
Outside of
maybe even.
Middle East. I mean, outside of Europe and the EU, because I think before you do something very drastic, you need to have a plan B, right? If you don't have a plan B, then you're screwed.
And did the Linux
Right.
Foundation have any new projects that they were fond about, or is there?
Well, I think it's not a new one, but I think the most interesting thing was actually from last month when they announced that the Open Infra Foundation was going to be a part of the Linux Foundation as well. I used to be, I wouldn't say sworn enemies, but they used to be, they used to try and compete with each other a little bit.
They didn't like each other that much. I was there
No.
once. Wasn't a huge success.
No. But I think it makes perfect sense because I know I've been following the Open Infra previously, what it was called the OpenStack Foundation for a long time as well, and there was always a lot of focus on at least in the last couple of years, a lot of focus on low-key, so Linux, OpenStack, Kubernetes infrastructure, I think, something like that. So that was something that the market actually wanted and found interesting. So the combination of the different kinds of open source projects and trying to get it or open source platforms together. In that sense, this makes perfect sense. I'm not sure what's going to happen to the other projects of the Open Infra Foundation.
Get rid of all those people from the Open Infra Foundation because I didn't have high.
No,
I didn't let.
I saw the two leaders. They were still they were here this week. I don't know how long they were going to stay on.
Yeah, they need to get them out. Sorry, but I don't have big fond memories of them. I don't think they're in the best interest of the OpenStack Foundation or Open Infra Foundation.
I think fundamentally OpenStack is the biggest problem OpenStack has never been solved. It's just extremely complicated to maintain and to manage. I mean, if you think Kubernetes is complicated, just hold my beer. Have a look at OpenStack, and that's fine if you have 500 developers working on.
Yeah, but let me be honest. If you're switching from VMware to something else, OpenStack is like the last thing you should look at.
Well, but they did see quite a lot of traction after the Broadcom VMware.
Yeah, because someone ran the numbers and said, "Oh, it's free, it's open source."
Well, I mean, you're right. You can only judge that properly in about a couple of years, right? When they've actually seen
the billable
what it takes
of all the employees working on OpenStack.
Yeah.
That's gonna be massive.
So yeah, but I mean, I'm very curious to see where this goes.
But the Open Infra had a few nice projects, smaller ones than the OpenStack.
Yeah, the Kata containers one was interesting, and Zool was also quite interesting.
Yeah, that's better.
And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these projects do because I think it's still an Open Infra Foundation still has their own events as well. I think they're going to be in Paris later this year. I think.
Oh, you're attending?
So I don't know. No, it's in June, I think. So it's going to be.
That's going to be a tough one.
Bit tough one, I think.
We'll send someone else.
No, no. So they will still have their own events. It will stay to a certain extent a little bit of a separate entity inside of the their own foundation, basically, right? So you can maybe view that as that's the best way to view it, is because the Linux Foundation has many sub foundations. This is more or less a new extra sub foundation, maybe that's the best way to see it.
I think it's time to wrap up. We're almost out of time, and you have to continue to your next appointment, I think. So this was the first Techzine Perspective from KubeCon and Cloud Native Con. I hope people found it interesting, and up to the next one.
The next one is actually going to be better.
Let's hope so. Okay, thanks, Sander.
You.